Welcome my friends to another Alliteration gaming video. My name is Levi and today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I think is pretty hot on everyone's mind as of late, and that's going to be the subject of burnout. Now, burnout is definitely not the most globally correct term I think for how everyone's feeling. It's just kind of a really easy buzzword to use, and it's more so going to be talking about the general feeling of unease and kind of lack of motivation and hype there is to play the MHA CCG right now. I don't necessarily feel like I have too much of it. There's just some factors going on right now that I think are really contributing to just the bit of a downtrend that the game is feeling in right now. And this definitely isn't going to be a doomsaying video. That's not really my style in the slightest. If there's problems and things, I like to figure out how to fix them as soon as possible. Otherwise, I more so just kind of want to have an open discussion about them and just kind of figure out why we're all feeling this way and how things might be turning up in the future. So regardless of how involved in the game you are, I think you can agree that there's just kind of an amount of factors, some kind, that are attributing to you just not being very motivated or excited about the game right now. And that's what I really want to talk about today. Now, my factors might not pinpoint exactly what you dislike with the game specifically. This is much more my personal feelings, and I think kind of what is affecting the larger community on a global scale. I think there are three. I think there are a big three right now that are just kind of the three primary factors to why people are feeling this way about the game. And the first one is the huge gap between our release dates. So if you look back at Crimson Rampage came out about sometime in May, which by the time Heroes Clash drops in a few weeks, so it will be about 5-6 months, give or take. That is a really long time between release dates. Now, there are a myriad of reasons as to why that is, and that's not really what I'm here to go into. I just kind of want to clarify this isn't me just trying to trash on Jasco for taking too long to release a product or something like that. I personally don't mind a decent amount of time between my release dates, but I think it's just kind of a combination of factors where Crimson Rampage just like wasn't that impactful on the meta, and also wasn't too much of like just a fun set, right? Like, it didn't really introduce that many new interesting ideas or lines of play or aspects when it comes to deck building and things, especially in the competitive atmosphere of things. It didn't have a hardcore effect on the meta, but even just from a very casual aspect of things, I didn't feel like, I don't know, Crimson Rampage just wasn't a set that like I looked at the whole of it and was like, wow, there's so many interesting new strategies and game plans that I want to try out. It didn't really like tackle that itch in me, and it left things kind of feeling a little stale like only a few months in. I still find myself mostly going back to set 1 characters and strategies, with Crimson Rampage just like slightly enhancing those sometimes with a few cards here and there. And even at the end of the day, if your set was as game-changing and fun and innovative as it could possibly be, regardless, 6 months is a really long time between your set releases, and it's only natural that people are gonna start to just feel a little tired and a little exhausted of the current card pool and just wanting something new, especially when the most recent release just really didn't do a lot to change up the card pool and bring in new strategies and affect the tactics that were available to us. We did have a couple new things change it up between stuff like the DLC 2 coming out and the second wave of provisional promos that also came out. So those did change up things just like a little bit, but at the same time definitely didn't scratch the itch that set 2 wanting us left with. Now, it's good that set 3 looks like it is very much going to be the antithesis of that and provide us with a lot of new interesting tactics and really fun gameplay mechanics that we can enact. But as of these last 6 months, players have definitely been feeling a little wanting when it comes to the card pool. Moving on to my next point, it's kind of a similar one as the first point, but just in a different vein. Look at that through a different lens and a new limelight, and that is the stale taste of our meta. So let's kind of look back at the set 1 meta. It was a lot of Kirishima, then it was a lot of Tokoyami, and a lot of air decks, and that was kind of the set 1 meta. Moving into the set 2 meta, there's 2 major bullet points I want to address there. 1, it doesn't look much different from the set 1 meta, and 2, it hasn't changed much since its inception. So to cover its similarities, the air decks definitely fell off and Kirishima got restricted, but Kirishima 2 is practically the same character in a lot of ways. He has a very similar game plan, very similar play style, plays a lot of the same cards. So when he came into the meta, it just kind of felt like the rerun of Kirishima 1. one. Definitely not as oppressive, but in terms of intrigue, uniqueness, and interesting and intricate gameplay, it didn't really offer a lot of new things. It felt like we were just playing our Kirishima 1 decks all over again. And then Tokoyami is practically the same deck as he was in set 1 as he is in set 2. He still just aims to blow you up on turn 2, albeit a little bit faster and a little bit better, but it's still the exact same gameplay and you're seeing a lot of the exact same cards being utilized. And so that's kind of my first point. Moving on to my second point, the meta doesn't look a lot different than when it first started. The big thing that set 2 brought into the format was the life symbol. So it kind of started out with Toga, and then Ochako slowly moved on to the symbol as well. Asui brought in the hyper aggressive variants of it, and then Momo has stabilized into the defensive variant of it that we're seeing nowadays. But throughout that entire fluctuation since the day set 2 came out and all of the events that Momo is winning now, there hasn't been a lot of change in the decks itself, right? Like, they've innovated as they go through the characters, but it's more so just kind of figuring out how we can put this same life main deck onto the best possible character for it. And so it just kind of results in us having been seeing the same exact cards for ages and ages now. They all look very, very, very similar, and even though the character is different, you're kind of just dealing with the same card pool over and over again. And over the course of 6 months, that grows very, 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 very stale. Yes, we did have the DLC come out, and we did have the provisional promos come out, but those didn't really accelerate the meta in very interesting ways. The DLC is what brought Kirishima into the meta, which is kind of one of the staler aspects of it, and it also is what really brought Momo as like the top dog life variant through cards like Cannon Blast and Steady Group Leader, which again is one of the not very interesting parts of the format. The provisionals promos came in, and the whole Stadium Unwavering / decks were really interesting for a bit, but then Unwavering got banned anyway, so those decks didn't really see a whole lot of limelight, and even when they did, it still just kind of felt like a rerun of the set 1 strategies with the air decks coming back for just a short while. Which just loops back to my first point of this column, in that the meta doesn't look that different than it did in set 1. And you know, we've definitely seen some interesting things pop up here and there. There's been some interesting characters and some interesting builds that have had really, really good performances, but at the end of the day, the global majority of the meta is still the same things from set 1 or the same things from the beginning of set 2, and just playing the same format and the same cards and the same characters for so long is just really going to tire us out. And I think you're really seeing that, and I don't think that these characters and these decks make a bad meta by any sense. I think the meta is fairly fun, all things considered, and pretty healthy as well, but when you're playing the same stuff for so long, it's going to get stale, and no matter how fun the decks are, they're going to lose their flavor after a while when you feel like the second you sit down from your opponent at an event and they flip up their character, you almost know every single card in their deck for the most part, and that is just going to get boring after a while, and we're really ready for set 3 to come in and inject some brand new life into this meta.
Hey you like the My Hero Academia collectible card game, right? If the answer is at least a resounding probably, you should head right on over to unfunstuff.com for all of your MHA CCG purchasing needs. We've got the new set Heroes Clash on pre-order, as well as the new DLC 2 in stock. And if you want to use coupon code Wealthy Aspirations, you can get 5% off your entire freaking order, and also support old Levi a little bit along the way. The link for all this is going to be right down in the description below, so get on over there and go get yourself some amazing product from some amazing people. Back to the video.
My third bullet point is kind of the most controversial one here, and the one that I'm not very excited to talk about, but there are a lot of factors that just kind of make me have to talk about it, and it's the slow advancement of the seeds of mistrust that have kind of been sown with a lot of things that Jasco is doing lately. Now let me clarify, I really love Jasco, I love a lot of the people at Jasco, but a lot of the things that have been happening recently are really starting to affect the motivation and the feel of the players in the community and the widespread image of the game outside of it. Now, since the game kind of came into the limelight with the My Hero Academia format, it was clear that this was going to be a bumpy ride regardless. Jasco put a lot of really good people in a lot of really good places, but at the end of the day, they were taking the game from zero to hero very quickly and without nearly as many resources as they needed from the get-go. So we knew that this ride was going to be a bit bumpy no matter what, but over time and through a lot of feedback and a lot of events and a lot of incidents, Jasco has shown that they're really good at learning from their mistakes, picking themselves back up, and then taking 2 more steps forward. And for a while now, we've kind of been on that right track. But the last few months have kind of felt like a lot of steps backwards. Incident after incident, things like not having their prizing ready at a lot of the recent events, the regional dates being changed nearly last minute, a lot of new promos and redemption things just not being shipped out because of the warehouse overload from set 3, very little word, advertisement, or like marketing in general for things like nationals and worlds and all of these hype events, and clearly have a lot of very exciting things planned for, but we're just not really hearing about it. Meaning that no hype is generated and no one's really like excited and anticipating these events when they really should be. Another big recent one was the Plus Ultra Pack promo changes, changing the allocation of the Plus Ultra Pack promos to the stores based on attendance and not just being able to buy how much they need. This isn't like a news video or anything, so I'm not going to go like super duper into detail about everything that's been going on lately, but bottom line is a lot of these minor incidents are really starting to stack up, and I can definitely tell that it's starting to really affect players' viewpoints of the game, and just is leaving a lot of people really concerned about the future of things under Jasco. Now, if you spend a lot of time in places like the Discords or just personally talking to a lot of the Jasco employees in general, you're seeing a lot more words of affirmation and confirmation of things here and there that can definitely go a long way towards easing your mind, but again, these are much more personal interactions and not widespread information. A lot of the really recent events has just kind of been a long road of promises that are constantly made and then just not fulfilled upon, and I think it's kind of maybe just a result of Jasco just trying to bite off a little more than they might be ready to chew, which isn't a sin by any means, but when you constantly promise people things and then aren't able to deliver upon them, eventually the people's understanding of that is going to wear thinner and thinner. And maybe the bigger solution here is just starting to be a little more grounded and realistic with their own expectations of what Jasco can do within itself to make sure that we don't sow more seeds of mistrust across the community and the player base. You know, the second anything happens, the Jasco people are always ready to swoop in and tell us, hey, everything's fine, we're working on things are progressing, everything's going to be okay. But then at the end of the day, there's still just a lot of things that have left a lot of the players wanting, and some of those players are just getting a little tired of the lip service aspects of the situation and really just want to see action be done. It's a little ironic almost because it kind of reminds me of how in the main series of MHA, the villain's primary plan is to slowly cause minor incidents after incidents that break and chip away at society's faith in heroes and hero society as a whole. And as that faith is slowly eroded by the buildup of these incidents, people start to lose faith and lose hope. And I think that's just kind of what we're seeing a lot of right now. We need Jasco to step in and say they are here, also back up those words with actions and show us that they're really going to continue to prop up and support this really amazing game that they have created. Even just coming in from the My Hero Academia format, I have seen Jasco take lick after lick and come back so much stronger because of it, and I really think that's what they'll do in the long run. But to really ease the public's faith right now, we need to see some strong action being taken. And I think the release of Set 3 going really well, and these exciting events like Nationals and Worlds on the horizon are really going to be a big blow towards that loss of faith if Jasco can pull them off really well. I know that this year was kind of all about finding their ground for them, and they have really big plans for next year that they've been talking about, and they really want to make next year kind of bring in a new standard and be the pinnacle of what they strive for. And I have a lot of faith in them to do that, but we have to get there first. And so if they can overcome and weather this storm of unease and mistrust and restore the belief of the community in them as a company and as a supporter of the My Hero Academia card game, I think there's a really beautiful horizon awaiting for us at the end. And so guys, those are kind of my 3 main points on why a lot of people are experiencing the feeling of burnout with the game right now, and how I think a lot of things on the horizon could really change that for a lot of people. Set 3 is looking to deliver a really fantastic card pool expansion to us and really bring a lot of the fun and intricate deck building back into the game. It's also got a lot of really powerful new cards and characters that I think are going to provide huge shakeups to the meta. And if Jasco knocks out the organization of Nats and Worlds by the end of the year to be really standout events, I think they're going to kickstart us into a really beautiful 2023 for the My Hero Academia card game. That's it for this video, guys. If you made it all the way to the end, thanks so much for watching, and if you really dug what you saw, please feel free to give me some feedback down below, drop a like, and even subscribe if you want more content, because this channel does nothing but pump out daily My Hero Academia collectible card game content. That's all the time I've got for today. This has been Levi. I'll see you guys in the next video.